Hello everybody, thank you so much for tuning into this video. I was asked a question by Kevin Manstein. He says, hey man, would you make a video about aftermarket exhaust, downpipes, crossover pipes, brand preference, optional sizes for the 6.5 and so on? Absolutely. Before we get into aftermarket parts, let's talk about the stock configuration. The truck platform, the van, and the Hummer H1 platform. So, for the truck platform, this includes, of course, pickups, SUVs such as Yukon, Suburban, Tahoe. All of those are a truck platform. The van platform and the Hummer platform featured a center-mounted turbo. But before we get into that, the truck platform featured a side-mounted turbo, 2 exhaust manifolds, a crossover pipe, and on the passenger side exhaust manifold was essentially your turbo pedestal. Then you had a downpipe that ran on the passenger side, right on the floorboard, and of course your exhaust pipe out to your whatever you were running for a tip. Typically it had a muffler from factory. But it was a real quiet exhaust, and the vans and the Hummers featured a center-mounted turbo that featured 2 exhaust manifolds, 2 up pipes, a turbo pedestal in the valley of the motor, right in the back by the firewall, and of course the downpipe that ran over to the passenger side. Why were the vans and Hummers able to do this? A doghouse that was removable, that featured more space on the firewall. The doghouse was essentially your firewall. You could access the turbo from inside the cab, removing that doghouse. And the doghouse is just that little piece that covers basically it separates the cab from the engine bay. The motors in the van and the van platforms were tucked into the engine bay so far that it protruded into the cabin space. So they created a doghouse. It was just a little cap that went over the back of the motor that separated the two. The reason why you couldn't run the center-mounted turbo in the pickup platform was the firewall was too close to the back of the motor, and you couldn't run the up pipes to the turbo and the down pipe. It would compromise that firewall, and the tolerance, it just didn't allow for, efficiency in the exhaust system. That being said, I would love to see somebody put a center mount turbo 6.5 in a pickup platform. I know you need to do some massaging on the firewall, but I would love to see it. And I believe I've talked to one of y'all that really want to do that. I think it's great. Go for it. I want to see it. Let's move on. Let's continue with the pickup platforms, because I know this is typically what most of y'all are looking to upgrade and change and make it yours. So the stock crossover pipe that runs from the driver's side exhaust manifold to the passenger side exhaust manifold. In stock configuration, there's a 2-inch exhaust pipe. It ran over, and typically the failures on it were more or less the donut gaskets that when you bolted the crossover pipe to the exhaust manifolds, they would go out. Either they would just deteriorate, so on and so forth, and the exhaust manifold gaskets themselves. If yours are bad, why not upgrade? The 2-inch crossover pipe in stock configuration worked. It worked really well. But there are a couple companies out there, one in particular that I've used on a video in the past. Please go check out that video. I feel like I did a fairly decent job, and I'm pretty informative on it. Especially if you're going to lift a pickup 6.5, you'll want that little tidbit of information. I went with KDP's crossover pipe. It's a 2.5-inch crossover pipe. It allows more flow from the driver's side exhaust manifold to the passenger side exhaust manifold. It allows you to spool up your turbo quicker, allowing it to flow better and less restricted. You can get more mass over to the backside of that turbo via that crossover pipe, so it'll be more responsive. And if you still have your stock turbo like I do, again, don't run it at 20 psi for very amounts of time. But it really helps with the responsiveness of those turbos, be a GM3, 4, 8, it doesn't matter. It really helps the response. As far as downpipes, I am running a Diamond Eye 3-inch downpipe. Now, again, in stock configuration, depends on what you're doing with the truck. In stock configuration, that little downpipe that they run, I forget the inches. I know it's smaller than 3-inch, is okay. It works for what you're going to do with the truck in stock configuration. If you're looking to get more power out of it, and one of the first modifications, of course, to do to your truck is to install an intake and an exhaust. It would be pointless to upgrade one without upgrading the other. Of course, like humans, vehicles, the more you breathe in, the more you're going to have to exhale. So, do them both. I, of course, have a K&N air filter, which works. I like K&N, but I am going to change that at a later date. I am running Diamond Eye's 3-inch downpipe, which is way better than the stock downpipe. I recommend these two brands because that's what I use, and I know they're good quality. Not to say anybody else isn't, but that's just typically what I use on any 6.5 build to get what I'm looking for. You know, if you have an aftermarket company and you're building exhaust, great, continue to do that. I want to see more people in the 6.5 world for sure. That's just what I've used, and that's what I know that works, but it's just exhaust pieces. Now, when it comes to full exhaust systems, Diamond Eye again sells full exhaust systems. They sell I believe, a 3-inch and a 4-inch exhaust that you can get with a muffler or without a muffler. It really sucks depending on which state you live in that requires a muffler, but I typically opt without a muffler, and the reason being is the more restriction in your exhaust system, the harder it's going to have to work for it to do what you want it to do. The more flow I can get out of my exhaust, the more flow I can get out of my intake, the more power essentially that I'm going to make. There's a reason why there's a cold air intake system. There's a reason why people with Power Strokes and Duramax and Cummins are going with bigger exhaust to get that air out of there. The more air they're taking in, the more the air they got to expel. So, Diamond Eye, of course, makes full exhaust systems. I may be running a KDP crossover pipe, the 2.5-inch, and the downpipe from Diamond Eye, the 3-inch, but I did my own exhaust. I'm a big proprietor of saving money where you don't have to spend it. These exhaust systems are expensive, they are pricey, and you can do it yourself if you need to learn anything like that. You know, there are videos you can watch, there are classes you can take, but essentially it's just an exhaust. And as long as you're after the turbo, you don't have to worry about wiping it out. Again, go check out my crossover pipe video. If you're looking to lift your 6.5, you're going to want to know some things in that video that I ran into. But you can do your exhaust yourself if you have the mindset and the skill and the time. Now, that's not to say that, you know, you shouldn't just buy somebody's exhaust because it's super pricey. If you can afford it and that's what you want to do, by all means. I decided to make my own. That's that's okay. I'm running a full 4-inch exhaust straight pipe out to a 10-inch exhaust tip. That's what I decided to go with on my truck. In the past, I have used a 3-inch downpipe, and this is on my old black 6.5. If y'all haven't seen that, go over to my Instagram. I loved that truck, but I'm glad I have this one. I used a 4-inch exhaust to a 5-inch elbow to a 6-inch stack. And I loved that stack, other than if I worked a long day and, you know, I had a headache. Keep in mind that stack was right behind the cab. And it being a crew cab, it wasn't bad. But that low drone that gives off is a sound to be heard for sure. I love that. I loved having a stack on that truck. I love having an axle dump on this truck. That 10-inch tip. It being lifted now isn't as loud because, of course, the closer your exhaust is to the ground, if it's facing the ground, it's going to echo off the ground and resonate up through the bed. And it's so loud in the cab. Luckily, it's off the ground a little bit, even though I have the front end of it up in the air right now. I'm just out here at a quarry playing around. But I wanted to record this video for you, Kevin, so that's what I'm running for an exhaust. Those are some of the aftermarket people for the 6.5s, Diamond Eye, of course, and KDP. But I'm a big proprietor of doing the exhaust yourself. Of course, not everybody has the ability to. Some of you may not know how to weld. You can get pipe expanders. You know, just go down to your local hardware store, pick up some exhaust pipe. If you can, flare out the ends, piece them together, use clamps. You're still going to have to weld at some point in time, but that's a given when you're working with metal. But I hope that was able to help you out. Really, it doesn't matter what you go with. You're going to be pleased over the stock configuration. And as far as the vans and the H1 Hummers, I'm not sure what they offer for exhaust. I haven't really worked on a whole lot of H1 Hummers. I've seen one, and I've never gotten into it. And then the vans, I hardly see them around anymore either. So I haven't really worked on a whole lot of them. Primarily the truck platform via pickups, Suburbans, Yukon, Tahoes, and Blazers. That's primarily what I've worked on 6.5s. But I hope that was able to help you out. Thank you all so much for watching. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, please leave them in the comments below. Get a hold of me via Instagram or Facebook. I will be sure to get back to you as soon as possible. If there's any video you would like to make, please let me know. I'd love to make that video for you. If you'd like to see more of this truck, please consider subscribing and going over to my personal Instagram. I'll leave that in the description box below. If you want to see even more IDI diesels, go over to IDI Legends on Facebook, Instagram. Check out our website if you're interested in merch. We have hoodies coming. I will be making a video on the hoodies. They will be here soon. But thank you all so much for watching. Have a good one, Legends.